In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to insert HTML5 audio in a web page with a fallback for older browsers that don't support the audio element. To follow along, you need to copy the audio folder from the multimedia folder in the course assets. If I expand that folder, you can see it contains two versions of the same file in different formats. One is MP3 format, the other one is OGG. You need both these audio formats for the best cross-browser compatibility. You can also find a copy of audio.html in the multimedia folder. Any file will do, but this one contains the story behind the audio file, which I hope you'll find interesting. To see what's happening in the underlying HTML, I'm going to open Split View, and I want to put the audio element between the second and third paragraphs. So click at the end of the second paragraph, open the Insert panel, switch to the Media category, and HTML5 audio is the third item down. Click that and Dreamweaver inserts an empty audio element. The most important thing that you need to do in the Property Inspector is to set the source. I'm going to click the Browse icon and go to the Audio folder and select one of these. I'll select the MP3 version and then click OK. Now Dreamweaver recognizes that there's another file in there with the same name but a different file name extension, so it automatically inserts the OGG file into alternate source 1. Dreamweaver also recognizes WAV files, so if I had a WAV version of the same file, it would have inserted that in alternate source 2. But WAV files tend to be much bigger than OGG and MP3, so it's best to stick with these two formats. Let's look at the other options. There are 4 checkboxes in the left-hand corner here. Controls is selected by default. That inserts the browser's default controls for an audio element. If you want to use your own controls, then deselect that, but you would need to set up the controls with your own JavaScript. Loop automatically plays the audio file again from the beginning when it gets to the end, and autoplay automatically starts playing the file as soon as the page is loaded. Muted is a rather odd option to have in an audio file because it turns the sound off. The reason it's there is because HTML5 audio and video share the same attributes. It makes more sense to start playing a video without any sound rather than to play a sound file without any sound. I can't see many reasons for ever wanting to use muted with an audio file. This next option, preload, it displays none, but actually if you look in the underlying HTML, preload is not in the opening audio tag. Let's just open that menu to see what options it has. Auto leaves it up to the browser to decide how much, if anything, to download. If you select metadata, that tells the browser only to sample as much of the file as necessary to find out if it's in a format to be able to play it. And none tells the browser not to preload anything. If you don't select any of these options, it's the equivalent of setting preload to auto, in other words leaving it up to the browser to decide what to do. But if you want to set it explicitly to none, you first have to select another value and then change it to none. It's rather a strange way of working, but that's the way it works in Dreamweaver at the moment. And fallback text lets you insert some text for older browsers that don't understand the audio element. What I'm going to type in here is download the file. And you can see in the underlying HTML that a paragraph has been inserted in there inside the audio elements after the source elements. Browsers that support HTML5 audio will not display this paragraph, but browsers that don't understand the audio element will display it. So what I'm going to do is go into Code View and I'm going to select that and I'm going to convert it into a link. So in the Property Inspector, alongside the link field, I'm going to browse for the file and I'm going to select the MP3 version, click OK, and it's a 2 MB file, so I'm going to add at the end of there, just after the link, in parentheses 2 MB, and it would be MP3 file. So let's just save that file and then we can test it. Live View supports the audio element, so let's turn on Live View and test it. Now what might come as a bit of a surprise is that the icon here of the speaker has got a diagonal bar through it, as though sound is disabled. That's because I set preload to none. If you don't set preload to none, then you won't get this diagonal bar. But as soon as I click play, the file should start playing and the diagonal bar will disappear. The recording is of Chindonya, traditional Japanese street musicians. The name Chindonya comes from the sound they're making. Chindon literally means ding bang. I'll leave you to read the rest of the story in the page. So to insert an audio element, select HTML5 audio in the media category of the insert panel. For cross-browser compatibility, use MP3 and OGG versions of the audio file. Dreamweaver automatically populates the alternative source fields if the files have the same base name and are in the same folder.